This brings us to our second updated regulation, Chapter 91, which requires everyone who produces, imports, or spreads livestock manure to develop and use a written manure management plan. This includes small backyard farms. The plan focuses on where manure is applied, what crops it goes on, when it's applied, and how much. The goal is to keep manure on the field and out of any stream. When it's in a stream or waterway, manure is pollution.
We have a half mile down the road City of DuBois's water supply reservoir, and so we have to be maybe a little more particular to make sure that water supply stays clean.
When you keep it on the farm, manure isn't pollution, it's crop nutrient. When you handle manure properly, it's like money in your pocket.
I view that manure in that building over there as fertilizer. So every ton of that I can apply and get as much out of it as we can is that much less fertilizer I have to purchase. You know, fertilizer is going up every day. Just ballpark figure, every ton of manure we haul out of that barn is probably worth about $60 to $80 in fertilizer an acre.
You want to get the most value out of your manure. It's important to store and handle it efficiently. Manure storages, such as liquid tanks, ponds, stacking areas, and compost pads, are all BMPs farmers use to store manure until it can be applied to their cropland when the nutrients are most needed. These practices must be identified in the farm's manure management plan. Barnyards or sacrifice areas must also be identified in the plan. Every farm with livestock usually has an area where animals congregate. How these places are managed needs to be described in the plan. Manure must be collected regularly. Also, keeping the lots as small as possible or paving with concrete will help.
The way we handle the heavy use area at the end of the season, we get a lot of manure build up, a lot of wasted hay build up. So we go in and we pile and windrow and take and spread that on the fields and get the best use for it. We then go back in and reseed that area to keep it from eroding.
You don't want dirty water coming off your barnyard washing into a stream. Your plan should address this. You must divert clean water and trap or filter dirty water.
We do have roof gutters on the barn and pipe that water around this heavy use area so that clean water is not running through the manure and making more dirty water.
Manure collected from the barnyard can be contained in storage or taken directly to the field. The regs do allow you to apply manure to your fields daily. Of course, weather is a factor. You have to follow your plan to ensure that you don't over-apply anywhere on your property. The goal is to get the right balance of nutrients to each crop so you get optimum production and at the same time keep those nutrients out of your streams. Spreading manure during the winter months is discouraged, but the regulations do allow it. However, there are specific rules about spreading manure on frozen or snow-covered ground. It's acceptable if needed, but at lower rates, and only on fields that are no steeper than 15% grade and have 25% crop residue.
Yes, we have to spread in the wintertime. Our tank holds about 4 months storage, so I have to empty right around Christmas time. We're mainly spreading on our alfalfa grass fields in the wintertime. There's enough residue there. We stay mainly on our lighter slopes, although we do have some steep slopes, as you can see behind me here, that's not someplace you'd want to be in the wintertime. And the regulations say we're not supposed to be on there in the wintertime, but most of the time you shouldn't be, for safety's sake either.
If fields are inaccessible, short-term stockpiling is allowed, but there are rules you have to follow. The specifics of Chapter 91 are outlined in the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection's Manure Management Plan Guide. You can download and print this from the internet or get a copy from your local conservation district. It gives you the details you need about the updated regs. Because the regulations require that your manure management plan be in writing, part of the manual contains a workbook that you can use to develop your plan. Record keeping is an important part of your plan. You are required to keep track of your manure application rates and the fields where you spread. Examples of record sheets are included in the manual. You can make up your own sheets or duplicate these and fill them in to help with proper record keeping. The manual has many charts to help you determine the correct rates of application by type of manure, crop yield and application method. Another new thing, pastures must now be included in your manure management plan. You need to take into account the manure that is put down by your livestock. Make sure there is enough vegetation to take up those nutrients. For pasture management, a grazing plan developed by NRCS is the recommended BMP. If a grazing plan is not used, manage your pastures to keep a dense sod cover and good vegetative growth. This means bare spots are minimized and the height of the pasture grass is at least 3 inches high. Why is 3 inches so important?
What happens is the grass gets eaten too close, and that hurts the grass production. All the carbohydrates the grass needs to grow are stored in the first 2 or 3 inches of the stem of the grass plant. When grazed closer than that, they're eating all the carbohydrates that grass needs to grow the rest of the year. The way grass makes its energy is through photosynthesis. In order for that to happen, the grass plant has to collect sunlight. If there's no leaf tissue on that grass plant, it cannot collect the sunlight and therefore does not make energy and therefore dies.
We've looked at how these regulations apply in your fields and in barnyards. Our last stop is by the stream. Extra conservation measures are needed where a stream flows through cropland or pasture. In pastures, it's important to limit the access animals have to streams. They can destroy the stream banks, which will create an erosion problem. Plus, they'll put manure in the stream, which is a pollutant. Solutions can include fencing or installing stream crossings. Cropland along a stream must have at least 25% plant cover or crop residue. Acceptable easy solutions are to grow crops with high residue like perennial forage, corn grain, or small grain, or plant the field in a cover crop after you harvest. You are not permitted to spread manure within 100 feet of a stream, sinkhole, or any drinking water source, such as a well. But if you have a buffer in place, the regs allow some adjustments. You have to check the details. Establishing or maintaining a streamside buffer is highly recommended. These act as a last line of defense. Buffers trap nutrients and sediment before they reach the stream. Plus, they can provide a wildlife habitat for the farm.
When we came here, there wasn't much wildlife on the farm. Everything was overgrazed. There was probably 10 trees in the whole property. Through our changes in stewardship, I think last year when my boy and I were in our deer stand, we saw 25 deer by lunchtime. We see wild turkey weekly, probably 15 different kinds of songbirds.
The regs we've been talking about today can be complicated, but it's all manageable. You probably are already doing many of the BMPs we've talked about. If you're not, assess your farm. Look at your fields and barnyard areas, and especially look at your land next to any streams. The erosion and sedimentation and manure management plans are tools to help you manage your operation. Develop these plans and use them. Your local conservation district is here to help you and to answer any questions you might have. The PA One Stop website and the DEP website are both loaded with useful information. We want to say thanks to the folks who helped us make this program, and thanks to you for doing your part to make Pennsylvania agriculture the best in the nation.